All right. Here we go with another informative webinar for everybody. Thanks to everybody for joining us and listening in. My name is Ari Zuckerman, Vice President of Centercourt Sports Academy. For any new listeners, our goal, we've been doing these Centercourt webinars for a couple weeks now. We just want to keep valuable information flowing to the tennis community. We want to keep all of you engaged in our ideas and our thoughts, and feel free to ask questions as well throughout this in the chat. Throughout this, the main topic for this talk is going to be understanding development and the progressive pathway from junior to college tennis. We have a great panel today. Many of you probably know Yevgeny. Yevgeny is the general manager of Marlboro and the director of tennis. We have Coach Conrad, who is the COO and director of high performance in Chatham, and we have Adrian Contreras, who is a high performance coach as well. And everybody that's on the panel today has played very competitive tennis at a high level growing up. So we hope you find this useful. I'm going to lead in with a question to Mr. Yev, talking about the essential requirements towards a successful progressive pathway. What do you make of that? The essential requirements towards a successful progression pathway.
Thanks, Harry. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well, safe, and healthy. Yeah, very important topic. A lot of the parents, a lot of the players always have ongoing questions and concerns. How to develop a player? What's the process? Everybody knows that it's not only related to hitting tennis balls or spending countless hours, on the court. It's definitely more in depth and more enthused when it comes to that progress. Now, I want to start out from the most important, from the youth progression, which is, to me, the athletic development is number one. A lot of coaches, parents concentrate on tactical or technical aspects when the player starts out the game and get to a certain level where athleticism is really the key element. What does it mean is, till about 10 to 11 years old, the strong suggestion is actually proving in many different facts that the player wants to run, swim, play soccer, basketball, climbing, all of those areas, obviously including, playing tennis, if we're talking specifically about one sport. All of that is the understanding and molding into a progressive athlete. What happens a lot of the time when Bobby or Jimmy start out at 4, 5, 6 years old and they're just concentrating on one sport. Well, the risks are, and actually there's a statistics but 75% of the kids drop out of the sport by age of 12. Why? There's two reasons. They simply burn out because they simply involved in one sport, and the pressure of the parents. That's another, important factor that I'm sure we touch based on that a little bit later. So athleticism, the athletic skills, the development evolves around doing a little bit of everything. And that little bit brings you to the point where when you got to make a decision, what's called specialty, when you go, let's say, into tennis specifically, this is where, the part of the tennis comes easy. The hitting the ball, the coordination, the balance, this is all kind of comes natural versus, you try to add on to it and, try to build it and force it, which obviously makes the experience and the progress a little bit more stagnant. So that's the main area, I would say, where you want to start out. Obviously, we have these days, for the last 10, 15 years, USTA and just overall the development is good with the progression balls, which is red, orange, and green, and all that is a significant help towards the development of a player. Meaning, making that bounce, of the ball is a little bit easier. Having a shorter racket, having a shorter court. Those are all the things that, first of all, makes things fun, which is the most significant part of this. And once a player gets a hang of it, the most, fundamentals and, gets into the intermediate level, this is where, the idea of keep it going. They keep the fire in flames, and and this is how this is going to help prevent the burning out and especially injuries down the road as well. So athletic development, that's the main one. And once you get to the point of 11 years old, that's when you're steering towards a specialty. A lot of parents question, well, what do we do there? I mean, what kind of tournaments we play? Do we enter the competition? Do we start out with the in-house events? And all those things are true and correct. And I would suggest you want to start out with an in-house tournament, such as, let's say, it's UTR, that is Centercourt, and I'm sure other places getting hooked on it. That's a great testing area. You got to test the water somehow. You want to get in the competition. You want to find out what is the feedback. Is the player going into the matches and getting upset, throwing the rackets, crying, and reluctant to play again, or he does same thing, but yet he wants to come back. He wants to work on things. He wants to get into the process. Well, that's what you decide. Either you go into more tournaments and or you take him back and see if you get the better approach and better fundamentals in order to give him another solid chance to get into the Live. Why? Because competition is important. I mean, we all know that playing for fun is the initial and important aspect that we all start out. We love the game, we want to be in it, but if we talk about specifically transition from junior tennis into the college, this is where that fine line starts when it gets to competition. You want to get to the point where you go into the matches, you get that extra experience, because it's simply plain and simple. You cannot get it by practicing 10, 15 hours on the court, either 15 hours of privates or 20 hours of groups. It's a mix. It's a mixture. It's a whole it's all in the menu kind of idea. And this is where further on, this is becoming a whole different area of what do you do and how you do. Winning at 10 years old is not the same, winning at 15, 16, or 17 years old. Every college coach wants to see an aggressive type of player. This is where the difference or the liner is. They're looking for that pro format, right? The professional player, you're taking the initiative of the point, getting inside, finishing the point at the net, perhaps. And, but obviously getting to the point, you got to create a very good fundamentals, the technical aspect, the tactical, but most importantly, athleticism, which is the first initial aspect. This is what's bringing the menu. That's what breeds a player into, in a certain format.
Real quick, yeah. Why don't you tell us about your pathway? I mean, you played obviously college tennis.
Yep.
When did you realize that listen, this is something I want to do, possibly professionally, definitely in college, and just go talk about that for a few minutes. And I know Conrad has a couple questions as well, but I've never talked to you about that, so I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I would say for me personally, the idea of taking it to the next level and, taking it possibly further into the pro level, which I did for quite some time, not too long, unfortunately. It was about 13, 14 years old, which is, I find it, a perfect age. I mean, this is where the mind and the body is becoming more of in the right state. And hopefully by that time you develop a certain skill level. And, the idea comes out to competition. I looked at myself and, asked my question. Do I want to play a certain amount of tournaments? Do I want to, play just this type of tournaments, or I want to get into a next level or higher level events? And, the bottom line is, it really comes down to you as a player, is what your mind at, and if you're ready to commit. And that's a whole different subject and topic. And I'm sure Conrad and Adrian would follow up on that as well. The commitment part, everybody, the way I look at it, everybody sooner or later would know how to hit the ball. Some better, some less, some going to be a little bit faster, some a little bit stronger. But it's the inner desire of, wanting to compete, not being scared, not being intimidated, go into, into the competition day in and day out. We all go through, moods and, the energy and, on the daily life. And this is the commitment. This is the commitment where young players, have to make probably from, 12 to 15 years old. I mean, because this is fundamentally a very important age bracket to really know, if this is, this is the right thing and where you want to take it. Because look, college tennis differs as well. There's, Division I, Division II, Division III, and there's different layers of Division I, and there's different categories, what school to play for. And I don't want to diminish any other, let's say Division II or Division IIIs, even though that, that path is, opens up really well, and it looks more prosperous these days than it was before. And basically this is where a player is going to find out, and, the results is initial part. I don't want to put a harsh reality to this, but, college coaches do look at this certain criteria. They look at the results as the probably main aspect, because this is where they figure out where the player is, what is his intention. UTR these days obviously helps to do that mathematically. And what is the potential of the player? If somebody gets to the 16, 17 years old for the junior year, and they're at a certain level, and let's say they want to play for University of Florida, which is, incredible SEC school in the program. But they're at UTR, let's say 11, what are the areas, what are the perimeters needs to be done from, to push that extra gear, how to go from 11 to 12, what do you got to do? What's the, path plan are you taking? Are you working on, your fitness? Do you have a regimen? Do you have a program written out for you? Are you committed to your diet? I mean, all the little things that come into hand and become very, very significant and multiplied, just because the coaches look at those things. I mean, and sometimes players get to the college at a certain level, and then the coaches look at what is the potential, how well a player improves from each season or from each quarter, let's say. Versatility of the player, ability to play singles, doubles. As we all know, the doubles is significantly important at the college stage, and every college coach emphasizes on that as well, because it's a huge point, especially to start the rubber. And the other things, the work ethic is always there; it's automatic. And leadership and academics obviously is the one thing. I mean, one thing I would say for me, I mean, when I played, it was more important actually the level, getting somebody good on the team, versus now. I mean, things have changed. I mean, college coaches do look at academics first and foremost, not just to get by the SATs and get you in the school, but they want to retain a certain level of GPA on the team, and therefore they don't just take anybody. I mean, you got to prove yourself from both perspectives. I mean, it doesn't become only athletically infused. Let's say if you're a good player, you also got to prove that you academically well-sounded and well-fitted player to be part of the team.
Let me open it up to Conrad and Adrian as well, because I think the topic is fascinating. Most of the kids on this call, and parents as well, are probably between about 10 and 15. So, I mean, what's your guys' take on what it takes for the 10 to 15-year-olds who have college aspirations? I mean,
I think
time training, all that.
Ari, if I can jump in and ask a question to both Yev and Adrian.
Yeah, do it.
We've all been around the tennis scene a very long time and seen many players come and go. Some that have been top national level and gone college, some that have decided to go to the pro pathway. Certainly in the last 10 years, the landscape, 10 to 12 years, the landscape has changed substantially. We now know that the top 100 ATP males achieve their peak ranking at the age of 28. We know females achieve their top ranking at the age of 26. Now, that is well and truly after they are at an age where they've graduated from college. So, I mean, from coming from Australia, where we have a college tennis system that's very small, nothing compared to what you have in the US. The season is very short. So most players with ability are forced into having to make a decision to either go to Europe and play club tennis, team tennis, or, Bundesliga, for example, very popular, or play money tournaments, which is what I did. I played a lot of prize money tournaments. I played European club tennis, and I played satellite tennis. So for me, it was always academics first. My passion was that, and then tennis. There are obviously going to be a lot of kids in that situation here too. My question to both Yev and Adrian is, and we'll start with Adrian's feedback, is what has this new peak age done to players' aspirations? And what do you guys believe is the right pathway from being a good junior, now knowing that you're not going to hit your peak if you stay in the game until that later age?
How are you guys? Thank you, Conrad. Very good question. As you know, we do have at Centercourt and many other tennis places around the country, and certainly New York, a lot of players around the ages of 14 and 16 years old, right? So they're recently developed physically. The physicality of their body today is very different from what it was two years back, right? And so with that, they have new options. And depending on how committed they have been over the last few years, I applaud all comments by Coach Imye, because you require physical development, you require obviously tennis development, which requires a lot of years and a lot of passion and commitment and order. There's no such thing as, all right, well, later in my life, you know what, I want to go this pathway, let me start training hard. It's given the competition that players are facing, when they're 15, 16 years old. By that time, they have to have a clear idea of where they are today, what their goals are for their last years of junior tennis. And in my opinion, one key concept that coaches can help very much is, and parents, is together starting to plant the seed of, if you're a tennis lover and you're good, like you've been proven to be good enough to go over the filters, right? National level, local, sectional, and then later national, and then the UTR number is going up because of your results. If you've been proving yourself that you have the skill and the mental skill to continue winning and continue doing good in this game, and you start looking at college, it's very important that you understand the reason why the age, or one of the reasons, right? There's several, but one of the reasons why ATP and WTA age cap has gone up is because players are fitter now than before. Players are taken way more seriously, and by the time they're 28, they're fitter than when they were 22. It's that simple, right? We have Federers at 37, 36, almost as fit as when he was, right? You have a Grand Slam champions at 30, 31, 32 years old. And a lot of the tennis players, as we all know, they are spending their money in fitness coaches. A lot of them are not even traveling with actual tennis coaches. A lot of them are traveling with an actual fitness coach on a yearly basis. And they might be joined by their tennis coach a few weeks out of the year, right, when they're on tour. That means that they know if they can keep their bodies and therefore their minds for 5 extra years, if they're professional tennis players, they'll be able to make that much money for 5 years, right? And they'll be able to enjoy their success a few more years. So if we understand all this, then at 15 and 16 years old, players have to realize college, like Coach said earlier, it's just another way of your body to get fitter. It's when you're 20, 19, 18 years old, you're freshman, whatever, in college, you are more knowledgeable compared to when you were juniors. You should know more about yourself. You should be you should control your emotions better. You know more about yourself and the game than before, right? So you are fitted better to start the next level. So if during college you maintain and you protect that passion for the game, and you believe that you can continue to the next level, right? Eh, eh, every day counts. I've seen many cases of former students of mine when they started with whatever number UTR, and as the years went by, they got fitter, they got better, they got more committed, they better organize their practices, they better um, communicate with their coaches. Their relationships improved over those 4 years, and the ending result is by their senior year they're a much better player than when they're a freshman year. And I know a lot of cases where it's the opposite, right? They get to college with a certain UTR, with a certain passion, and then if their communication with their coach wasn't what it should have been, their commitment to fitness wasn't what it should be, then that passion wears off, and by the time they're done, and they careers being a less player than they were at the beginning. So if we understand all this, the key is when you're 15, 16, every day counts. You gotta get fitter. You gotta protect your passion for the game. You gotta make things fun. You gotta compete in a way that when you're competing, it's interesting to you. You gotta look forward to every competition. You gotta learn from every loss, which you're gonna have more losses in many cases than wins, or in some cases. And so you gotta have a bulletproof protection around you with your parents, your coaching staff, your the people that you train with. Everyone contributes to the development of this player. Many things can happen, positive or not so positive, between that 15-year-old kid being a good junior player, a top 10 in the nation perhaps, in their freshman year and their senior year. There's a lot of things that can be done better. And so the key is every day counts. Take care of your fitness, take care of your mind, take care of your personal your life. No, you gotta have a life outside tennis. If you're that committed, tennis is gonna be a big portion of your schedule. But you gotta have a life. You gotta have an outlet for you to make it fun. When you're training, it has to be fun. Therefore, every day counts. Every day you're getting fitter. Every day you're getting smarter about the game. You understand yourself better. And if you decide by the end of junior years that you want to go to college, then you are better suited. If you decide by the end of your college years that you want to continue into tennis, and like many of us, we continued, and we're here as tennis people, you gotta protect your passion for the game, and so every day counts in that sense, I think.
If I can ask one more question, just quickly, Yev, I want to throw it to you. You spoke a lot about the junior progression. Let's call that a below 13 years old. My question is, and I get this a lot, dealing with performance parents and dealing with kids. Obviously, we know being an athlete is essential, but which athletic skills and from what other sports do you think we could best adapt those skills to lay down as the foundation to becoming a great tennis player?
Very interesting and very in-depth question, I would say, Conrad. From personal experience as an athlete and as a player, and as being, as a tennis person for, many years, I say sports like soccer, sports like basketball, swimming. And let me just pause on swimming for 1 second here. Why swimming? Swimming is the only sport, if you think about it, probably close to tennis, but that's a fact, where every part of your body, every part of your muscle works. This is the ultimate development, yet there's no ball involved. There's no coordination. It's the endurance, it's the, muscle work. This is where you take it into, sports like soccer. Why soccer? Because this is where, your feet, your balance, your, footwork and coordination, as we know, is absolutely essential in our sport. Look, tennis is a running sport. The bottom line is you gotta love to run. That's the first and foremost. You can't be playing the sport standing up. And from my experience, I'm sure I'm not the only one, having a talented I'll throw that word here, a talented athlete who possesses, very substantial skills, good eye-hand coordination, good feel, good touch, even good footwork. But the lack of, and that's following up on what Coach Adrian said, every day counts. Every day there's that extra, extra 3 to 5% that you got to bring in. And this is where it counts. Working with your footwork, the essential development starts with your footwork, understanding, where you stand, how quickly you can recover. Basically, it's like the sensors, the sensors on your card, same thing, the sensors on your feet. You got to know exactly where you are, understanding the geometry of the court, recovering, stretching, because it's agility. It's not running straight forward. It's a lot of kind of ripped movements, sideways, backwards, front, and so forth. I mean, this is the first initial aspect. And this is how I would scale, if we're talking about a player under 10 years old. I believe that's what you said, before 10 years old. It starts with feet. Yeah, the other area, because this is where the eye hand is the most crucial and important aspect. Throwing the ball, anything involved with the ball that you can catch, that you can kick, that you can kind of react to, is only a plus. I mean, I don't want to plurally explode, go into, different sports, but I would say just concentrating on those 3 sports will make a significance in the development and, coming into that.
So that's great. Yeah. Before I ask Adrian the same question, I mean, if we look at the sports, other countries that do so well, Spain, for 2 decades plus, they're always in the top, most players in the top 100. Big football countries, European handball countries like Holland, big in European handball, which are throwing, running, kind of, fast, intermittent sport. I find it interesting how certain nations and certain countries tend to develop more athletes of one mold based on the other sports they play culturally. You look at countries like England, obviously they got cricket, swinging. Here in the US, you got baseball, pitching, batting, catching. All those skills are in tennis. Coach Adrian, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think working on the fundamental motor skills, right? What you described, catching, stopping, braking, changing direction, everything that makes an athlete more agile, right? It's crucial that, so I have two points on that, though. The number one, the pathway towards college requires a committed athlete, a committed student. And this is key because I've answered that question multiple times with parents that come to me with, kids that are in 9th grade, in 8th grade, right? And they come and they want to increase the amount of tennis they want to play. They want to, increase their amount of hours of private lessons, and allowing the student to start playing a little more and hopefully, get into the high school team and do good, and then eventually get into college. And so my answer typically to that is sure, more tennis will absolutely help, and it's gonna require commitment. But we have to understand that the ending result of this pathway, getting to college, whether it's Division 1, 2, or 3, it really kind of doesn't matter. The numbers are very clear. The UTR number that is required to be part of Division 1, 2, or 3 school is very high. And you don't achieve this number. I mean, there's a number of things that players have to do, and that have to do, again, answering your question, has to be done from early age. Otherwise, you're always in deficit of time, and by the time you're in 9th grade, and your academic commitment is also very important, and time is limited for you to train as much as needed, right? And most importantly, competing wise. So yeah, early, you want to have two things. Number one, an activity that you're passionate for, right? Something like, if you're somebody like me, when I was a kid, I practiced all sports, and I was fairly okay at many, but I was clearly passionate about tennis. And so my parents saw this, and they saw me. My face would light up when I was on a tennis court, and I would literally go out and hit tennis balls, even if it was raining sometimes. Um, they saw this passion, and they made everything they could to put me on a tennis court as much as needed. And so very early in my years, I was training 3 4 hours a day, and sometimes during the weekends I would go out and play literally sometimes 5 sets with different people. Older people and guys my age. It didn't matter. It absolutely didn't matter. I wanted to play tennis. In addition to that, throughout the week, I also practice different sports. Being from Mexico, I practice soccer, of course. uh, American football, as we call it down there, is very popular, and so I practice that. I practice volleyball, which all require athleticism, skill of different kinds, tracking, passing, court location. Some of those sports were team sports, were individual sports. You need to communicate. In some other cases, yourself. So all of this was absolutely fundamental. I was very lucky that my saw this from early age. And since I was 6 7 years old, I was already practicing organized sports. By the time I was 10 years old, I was already very clearly gravitating towards tennis. By the time, as Coach described earlier, by the time I was 11 years old, I was basically only playing tennis, but occasionally during the weekends, less relevant to my sport life, I was also doing, team sports and different kind of competitive sports, right? Which all contributed, and I wanted to win on them all. I got to learn different tactics, and I got to learn how to interact with different kids in a different way. All of it contribute to the sport that I love most, which included all these fundamental motor skills. I It's not a typical pathway from somebody of my country, but I come from a sports family, and they just saw this and they helped me. Here in the United States, we're very lucky because sports are very accessible and available to everyone, no, for the most part. Uh, but yeah, but being able to develop that is essential for you to later, if you want to stay in tennis, that's gonna help for sure.
Adrian, let me ask, because I want to make sure we keep to a good schedule here. I want to ask one more question on the topic of college recruiting, and then we're actually going to open it up to all the questions in the chat. We have some really good ones. I'm going to direct this at Conrad, and then anybody else could, you guys can certainly chime in. But let's say I'm a college coach. I'm going to do a quick plug. We have Dave Fish, who's the Harvard coach. He's going to be on next Tuesday at 4. So let's say I'm a college coach. Let's say I'm recruiting 2 students. One of them is a 13 UTR, plays tennis all the time, trains 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, competes in nationals, all kinds of tournaments. And then I got another player whose UTR is a little lower, 12.5, plays 2 or 3 other sports pretty competitively as well. Pretty good academics, better academics than the 13. Where do you lean as a college coach, or what do you look at? Like, let's say you got 2 and they're side by side. You can pick both. You can pick one. What's your thought process there?
Great question, Ari. Really great question. Just the other day, I was on the phone with an Ivy League coach who was asking about 2 players that are at Centercourt. One whose UTR is very high, and it certainly will go, to a top college, and another who's maybe not at this stage. And the question was all related to, what type of person are they? What type of human skills do they have? What type of contributor are they to the community? The actual topic of this conversation was based on, we're looking for people not only that can play, because everyone can play at that level. We're looking for people that are going to give back. Are they team men? Do they have grit? How do they handle, an injury situation? So the situation we're in right now, no one's able to train, play sport, compete. That's a nightmare for every tennis player. We know that. We're experiencing it. But how do they handle those setbacks? You know, a lot of good players go into college, and it's a very rigorous schedule. I'm not sure many people really know, but a lot of players go in, and the schedule's so intense, their bodies aren't ready for it. And so they want to know, what type of physical training are they doing? Are they the type of kid that is, you know, when it's fitness, do they duck out early? Or are they the guy that's always at fitness? Are they the first one there? Do they warm up? Do they cool down? Are they giving priority to good nutrition? What type of parents have they got? Are their parents positive? You know, so those are the things other than the obvious with, you know, it's SATs and scores and tennis level and UTR, which we all know has to happen. The intangible topics that coaches are looking for, it's pretty much related to the quality of the human. And, you know, this particular coach was very interesting, was saying that things have changed in the last sort of 5 years. Now they're really looking more at what type of person. Are they going to improve when they get to college, or are they going to plateau at college? Are they going to get into this environment and absorb everything that's here? Training opportunities, other opponents to hit with, you know, everything's in front of them. Are they going to maximize that opportunity, or are they looking to get here, get the name, you know, get the nice transaction, and that's it? And so that would be my feedback on that topic. You know, and I'm a big believer in holistic development of athletes. You hear me talk about that all the time, whether it be that they're academically strong. You know, you need to value academics and read between the lines. Academics, getting good results is one thing, but getting good results highlights to college coaches that you have a commitment to excellence. You have a commitment to self-improvement. You have a commitment to becoming better. You're not complacent. You're not happy with where you are. You're always trying to find one little detail to get a little better. If we take that same character trait and bring it to the tour, it's exactly the same. Those top players are looking for 0.5% that's going to make them better. What's going to make them just that little bit more flexible? What's going to make them recover faster? What's going to make them lighter? And it might be something as simple as Novak did it years ago, made a change to his diet, and boom, next thing you know, it made a difference, and all the other players started doing it. So it's the same trait. My point is, whether you're going pro path or top level college path, it's the same trait in a different environment. It's seeking perfection. It's being a good, you know, human, giving back, trying to be the best teammate and team person you can be. But actually, Ari, Coach Adrian has a very interesting background. He also has been a college coach and been very much involved in the college side. He might have some good feedback here too. Adrian?
Yeah, take it, Adrian. And then just so everybody knows, after that, we're going to do questions, Q&A. We're going to do like a little speed round. So, yeah, Adrian, take it away so we can hear what you got.
I want to add just one quick thing. I spend a good amount of my phone calls with parents, and the other half is with college coaches. Every year I might have 3-4 different players that are about to go to college, right, or about to you know, they're in their junior year. So coaches are starting to call me, and I talk to college from all levels, but you know, University of Miami, Georgia, Ivy Leagues of different kinds, you know, up north, Midwest, all over, right? And so the common denominator, the one thing that coaches are always asking is precisely the human part of the player. I've spent conversations of 1 hour, 45 minutes with a college coach multiple times in the season, and not one question is about their tennis. Some other coaches, no, but and there's a good reason for that, because the results are easily tracked, right? All these coaches can just look online and who they beat and so on, and they have an idea, right? The other question that they might have is, and this is a little specific, but are these players how do they handle the losing? As we know, they're gonna lose in some cases more than they win, right? Or they're gonna lose a good amount of matches throughout the year. If you're a freshman in college, you're probably gonna be playing a number in the roster, and you are gonna be playing against more experienced players, perhaps, right? And so it is expected that you're not gonna do as good as the following year, and so on. So how are you gonna handle that? How are you gonna handle that pressure? And they go as far as literally asking almost personal questions about, like, who are their friends, have you seen interactions, what kind of situations they get into, how do they react in specific questions they have. This is something that coaches are always very interested. Every single coach, this is what they're looking for. And the other thing is the player, the vision of the player, right? What are the reasons why they're going into college? Or, is it academics? Is it tennis? Is it just that personal drive? They always want to find out more about what are the real intentions based on what the coach see. The reason why they want to go to the Northeast, they want to go to California, they want to go to, play for whatever level of Division I school these guys are at. It is very important for them to understand the reasons of that player, what they want to choose them. They always want to be the number one option, the one players that are extremely committed to what's coming. That is a common denominator, Ari. Um, yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm sure you guys got a lot of great stuff out of that. That was super informative. I'm just looking through the chat real quick. We're gonna go. Let's do this, guys. You can all put your speakers on. Let's just, if you have a good answer to the question, let's just keep it to about a minute or so, and then we'll just run through all these because they're all really good. I'm gonna start with if I mispronounce any names. I have Jai Menon wanted to know how just quickly discuss how you deal with cheating in junior tennis. It happens, more often than we wanted to, but what's one or two good strategies? Let's say your son's on the court or daughter, they get cheated, they come home after, they're crying. What do you tell?
Who are you looking for? Let's go to Yev.
Anybody, yeah.
Boy, I mean,
Yev.
I got the tricky one. I mean, this is, I mean, there's no one answer to that one. I mean, it happens all the time. And, the way I look at it, where it happens, how it happens. I mean, when you have somebody that is just starting out playing the tournaments, I mean, that could be a mental factor, and it could be a sort of injury to the head. I mean, I'll say it how it is. These days, the local Eastern tournaments, they all have an official, and you just got to understand one main thing. You got to be prepared. I think the parent, or more importantly, the coach, should talk about all those circumstances, let's call it that way, before the tournament enters into the tournament. It's gonna happen. You have to, I mean, the best thing is what is bring the official, let him stay there, as everybody knows, and everybody go to that route, and this is where it lives. I mean, you don't want to say that you want to cheat back, because that's also not a solution. It's simply not a solution. But what I noticed from my personal experience, going with the players to national events, for an example, or for a change, I see it less. I'll be honest with you. Last year or two, maybe because the level of the tournaments, maybe the age bracket, where you play, obviously 12s, 14s, or 16s and 18s would differ from that perspective. I do see it more often on the regional level, unfortunately, but not so much on the national level. So probably it's kind of like cumulative advice that I can give. Try to get to the national level. So you're gonna see it.
There you go. Keep training all the time.
I have a few comments on this, because I every weekend players coming back on their matches, right? And parents, and I get 5 pages emails by parents that are basically complaining about cheating. And so several things that I mentioned is, number one, it's not always clear that you've been cheated. Often when I'm there, I'm watching the same match with a parent or another person, they are going to say that somebody just got cheated, and I will disagree with them. Often, and we are sitting next to each other, right? So that's one thing. Think that you've been cheated is one thing, and being cheated is another thing. And so often it is common that we get it wrong, simply because the ball travels fast, you are at a certain distance, and that's one thing. Number two, that is one of many distractions in the game. If you think you've been cheated, you are getting distracted. And so what's it going to be? Do you want to win the match, or you want to think about that one point, that blah, blah, blah? It's up to you. Number one, if you're 100%, and I mean 150% sure that you were cheated, you saw it nice and slowly, and the guy clearly cheated on you, you have one of two options. If there's a referee, do something about it. You call for a ref, and you tell them, hey, this is what happened. They'll know what to do. Often they don't do what you want, but at the very least, the other guy has been called out, right? The other player has been called out, and you're basically sending the message, hey, I'm on to you. Don't do that. That's not, that's not part of the rules, but that's that. I'm not gonna get distracted. I'm a man on a mission. I gotta focus on the next point. Right? If I want to win this match, I gotta be ready to play the next point. And be ready is focus on what I need. And that is, what's gonna be my tactic? Am I serving? Am I returning? Do I need to play cross court? Do I need to attack a certain shot? That's where my mind should be. Right? So I'm gonna dedicate 10 or 15 or 20 seconds in between points to deal with this cheating thing that I am 150% sure I was cheated. I'm gonna call for a ref. If they can do something about it, fine. If not, it's just another one of many distractions, and it's up to me not to focus on that, as opposed to in winning and doing better in the next point. At the end of the match, very common and very easily, players and parents, they blame it on this one point, on this guy cheating constantly. To me, that's just that's just an excuse. And I, as a coach, I try to always tell my students, nah, don't go that road. Do not tell me that you lost the match because somebody was cheating. What did you do about it? What's that?
Oh, no, keep going. Sorry.
And Adrian, and that happens most of the time. What is the first thing the players say? I lost because I got cheated.
Absolutely, because it's easier. You take blame on yourself. Excuse. Right. You take blame on yourself, and the fact of the matter is that it's part of your tennis life. You will be cheated. Oftentimes, half the time you're not sure, and the other half you might be sure, and the other third or half you're gonna be wrong about it. It's part of the game. Until you become professional tennis players and you have professional referees on each line, that's gonna happen to you. No, and until you are exposed to this magical technology that we see on TV, where the Hawkeye, whatever, can tell you whether the ball was in or out, until that happens, that is part of the game. The same way your shoes are part of the game, your tennis rackets and your tension is part of the game. It's just one another thing that could or not be a distraction, and it highly depends on your mental capacity of being ready to play the next point or not.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole webinar just on rules and cheating and whatnot. What's up? Conrad, what do you got?
Say two things really fast. One is, tennis by definition sorts the cheaters from the players. It happens through the osmosis of the game. As you get better, it just can't happen. It doesn't happen. I agree with Adrian entirely. It is just an excuse for many players. Kids don't like hearing that. It's a tough conversation with us on a Monday when a kid comes back and says, I lost in the semi because I got hooked on this line call. So a big part of it is the parents. Do not accept that feedback. Do not accept that feedback. That is unacceptable feedback. There were 135, 150 points played in the match. You're telling me two of them were possibly a bad line call? Who knows? Forget about it. And finally, we need to develop a mindset that encourages being, able to deal with stress tolerance. I think, and I hope most people that are on today know about the 28-day Centercourt mental challenge. So we had a speaker last week who's put together a 28-day, 20 minutes a day video challenge for all Centercourt athletes. If you're interested in that, please let us know in the chat, and we'll make sure you can get started in that 28-day mental challenge.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, let's go.
Ari, what do
you got? You got some points? All right, go.
Question by Rishi, if I say it correctly.
Rishi Gajar.
Yeah. What if you play very aggressive and good, but you keep losing? Playing very aggressive, is that okay? I mean, it's a very, very good question.
Good question.
We did talk about it a little bit earlier. And again, going back to the development, how you go to the next level from when 12 to 15 years old, and you got to develop weapons that you're going to take it into a battle, because again, winning matches from 10 to 14 is actually different when you go to 16 and up, and especially try to get it into college and have as smooth as possible transition. Here's the thing. Andy Murray became number one in the world by winning 52% of his matches. 52% of his points.
Points, yeah.
52. Think about it for a second. That's barely over a half.
I think Nadal won 55% of his points last year at number one in the world.
Right. This is where, analytics, and actually a great webinar with Mr. Crack the other day. Those are very interesting things to look for, because statistics will tell you a lot, and it will justify that, the idea why you should play aggressive. Roger Federer and Serena Williams, when they won Australian Open, I believe they won both 48% of the points on the baseline, at the baseline, right? Those statistics really, not in favor of, if you think about in the scope of, winning a tennis match. Playing good and, keep losing, but yet you're taking all the right ingredients and you're putting into the match day in and day out. You're not going to win every match. That's the bottom line. It just doesn't work like that. You got to continue bringing your strategy, your outlook on the matches, and you got to know your game very, very well. That's the first, most important thing that you want to go into the match with. You got to know yourself as a player. You got to know what are your weapons, what are your weaknesses. Try to obviously hide it or substitute it with your weaponry in the match, and taking the odds on your percentages. By going for first serve. Getting on the, more aggressive on the return. It doesn't mean you have to, smack a winner from the return or try to finish point in 1 to 2 points. In other statistics, I believe also by Craig O'Shaughnessy, is 90% of the points won from 0 to 4
under 4
rallies,
shots, yeah.
Right? 90%, where only 55 won from 4 to 9 ball rallies.
Yeah, he studied the Australian Open, so it was for a specific tournament, but it's probably pretty much across the board.
Right. Yeah. So those are the stats that you want to take it into the match, and not to get discouraged or distracted. That look, I'm going to be playing safe. You will win. You will win a certain amount of matches by playing the safe tennis. But once you want to get to the next level, or try to get over the certain barrier, you need to have the aggressive approach. You want to have that weapon that you can pull it out at the right time. And that's specifically what college coaches, a majority, I don't know if Adrian can concur with that or not.
Yeah.
But, that's the development. And what Conor was talking about, do you plateau when you get in your, after your freshman year, or do you keep improving? Because there's, when I played for both universities, happened to be, Texas A&M, University of South Carolina. I've seen those Cinderella stories. The guys that are coming, with really nothing on it, but eager and humble to work day in and day out and keep developing their, the strength and, from the fitness standpoint, as we talked about before. into the overall strategy, into overall shots, and just the overall building themselves as a machine on the court. And by the time they get to the senior year, I mean they're at the All-American level. I mean, and then they go into if they take it into the further, they go to play professionally. And actually, I wanted to get back to that, Connor, just briefly. To your question, the age, the average age, 28 and 26 ATP and WTA. I mean, that just shows that the professional tennis has extended. The longevity, that's probably the word, is much higher. I mean, and you see more and more people go through college path, all 4 years, where before it used to be, a couple of years, and then if you're good, you try to make it, you try to, have a shot and swing on the tour. But now you see more and more players, Isner, Anderson, Daverman. I mean, there's just many, Daniel Collins, they go all through 4 years. They go through the rigorous, programs, obviously at the good universities in terms of what is good, where it's scaled, where they have the resources for them to build, to get stronger, to get smarter. And, they take it, and as you see, they have, a pretty successful careers, and there's definitely plenty of time for them to do what they're doing and, play up till, 36, 37 years old. Way before, 10, 15 years ago, he was what, 30, 32 years old, and that's when people retire.
Yeah, if I can say one quick thing, the word aggressive is so general and broad. In 2013 and 14, I was the head coach of Xu Xilin of China, world #1 ITF at the age of 15. She won the World Junior Masters, absolute superstar at 15 years old. The most aggressive tennis player I've ever seen in juniors in my life. Had no B-ball, had no C-ball, A-ball on everything. That means aggressive on everything. Two-hand forehand, two-hand backhand, stood 1.5 meters, 2 meters inside the baseline, had incredible hand-eye coordination, really quick feet, and was able to hit everything early and beat everybody. What happened after that? She had, let's say in the breakthrough transition years, no substance to her game. She wasn't able to play slightly longer points. She wasn't able to compete against players who could out-hit her. She didn't know what to do. So you look at her today, she's stuck in the 300s. And this conversation we were having when she's 12, 13, 14, 15, we've got to add a B game to your game. It's great to be aggressive, but aggressive is a big thing. You can be aggressive with your racket speed. You can be aggressive with your core position. You can be aggressive with your idea. Hitting a second serve, charging to the net, that's aggressive. Hitting a slice backhand when everyone's trying to bang two hands, that's aggressive. Playing a drop shot when you're in control and in balance, that's aggressive. So the word aggressive is so broad. Kids today need to understand you can be aggressive in many, many, many ways.
The other thing I would like to add to that comment, let me just get this right. This is a question that I receive constantly from parents, from players, and so I'm pretty passionate about this subject because I often hear, well, I'm asking him or her to play their game. You just got to go out there and play your game. And to me, what I found is that when you're playing tournaments, when you're competing, there's like 3 good reasons that I can think of. Just in general terms, 3 good reasons why you want to play a tournament. Number 1, you want to play a tournament if you're coming back, let's say, from inactivity, right? You want to have exposure back to competition. You want to loosen up. You want to try things out, on a competitive scenario. The other kind of tournament that you want to play is like a lead-up tournament, a tournament that is getting you ready for a bigger competition, right? From a Grand Slam type tournament or a sectional or a national that you're getting ready for, right? The one that is going to give you the most points. And the third reason why you want to compete is you want to truly match your current skills against somebody else's current skills, right? And so when you're out there competing, you're out there to match, to try to solve problems. You know, the opponent is going to present you with a tennis problem that you can solve. And so if you're playing a tournament for the wrong reasons, it'll be easier for you, for your coach, for your parents to be disappointed with the results. You got to play it for the right reason. If I'm playing a lead-up tournament and I'm working on my game, I've been working on a new skill. Try to take the ball earlier inside the base and try to open up the court, earn that short ball, and then finish points up on the net. This is not a skill that I'm extremely comfortable with, but I've been practicing it enough. So in this lead-up tournament, a tournament where it doesn't matter because the points that I'm fighting are not too relevant for my UTR, for my ranking, for my whatever. So in this type of situation, it is more acceptable. Look, regardless of the problems that the opponent is presenting you want to practice this new skill because it's going to help you have it accessible next time around you are competing this bigger tournament, right? And or scenario, if you are already part of you're in the second round of this big tournament, and so the result matters. So you win this match, your UTR will go up, your points will go up. It's going to allow you to play the next national tournament, which does matter. So in this case, the mission is you got to solve the problem. So if you go out there and play regardless, and you go out there to play your aggressive game, whatever that means, for you that moment, and it's not working, it is your job to find a better solution for that problem, because at the end you need to win. You got to win. You got to find a way to compete. And so to me, this is what I'm watching these tournaments, or what I'm monitoring the results of my students. What do you need in this tournament? How are you dealing with it? And what feedback can you bring me, or can I give you? Did you or did you not solve that problem?
Great point, Adrian. Look, guys, we've got to move on. Before we do, just everyone listening, I really hope that you take away the key message. That is, what's essential are the 4 key development bubbles, okay? The first and most essential part is that you are involved in enough hours on a tennis court, okay? You need quality clinics, quality squads, you need fitness with that, you need all of the areas of training. The second bubble is you need private coaching. If you're serious about your tennis level, you need to take private lessons. That is going to be your learning environment. You're part of mentorship with your coach, checking in, mental development. A lot of that stuff, technical growth, happens in privates. The third key bubble is practice. So many kids today do not practice. Being able to practice means you need to be in a club, you need to be a member of a club. You need to have access to courts. You need to play practice sets. You go to countries like my country, Australia, we say between 8 and 12 practice sets a week. Okay, so that is something you need to consider, the practice bubble. The fourth critical development bubble is competition. And playing the right level of competition is essential. Not playing the highest level tournament you can find. It's playing what's going to help you to develop and get enough matches under your belt. So thank you very much, Yev. Thank you very much, Adrian, for your time. That's absolutely awesome. We got great information. Ari, thanks for having us on. I'll throw it over to you.
All right. Thanks, guys. That was very informative. I'm sure everybody enjoyed that. We have a couple of upcoming webinars as well. I listed them as well. I listed them on the chat, but we're going to send out an email. And we also have an exciting new initiative at Centercourt called Centercourt 360, where we are merging the athlete with a lot of professionals in other roles, tutor roles in business, roles in finance, roles in technology. So we have a lot of classes that we just rolled out, actually. So a lot of you probably got emails about that as well. It's an exciting program. If you have any questions about the 360 program, the email is 360@centercourtclub.com. Exciting speakers, like I said, exciting. A lot of exciting professionals that are going to be involved in that as well. Again, we hope you guys join all the webinars that we're hosting. And if you have any questions, or if you have any topics you want us to throw out, just send me an email, ari@centercourtclub.com, and we look forward to speaking to everybody real soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.